Welcome to Eating Enlightenment, the show that explores new mindsets around body and mind to help heal food relationships and stop binge and emotional eating to be happy and well. I'm your host, Jared Levinson, former binge eating wrestler turned Zen monk turned eating coach and counselor. Today, we're going to be talking about hypnosis with Jennifer from enlightenedhypnotherapy.com. If you've ever gotten the advice to just change your mind, just think positive, you'll realize that that's really dumb, and you'll also learn why you need to relax your body so that your mind becomes open to suggestions as well as specific phrases that Jennifer recommends to help calm down and stay free of stress. Couple announcements. Season 2 of the podcast will be starting next episode. It'll be a solo announcement with me announcing some new exciting directions and where we'll be taking the podcast. Thank you so much for staying along for the ride. We're on our 200 something episode right now, and I'm getting my feet underneath me. I'm getting more and more joy out of podcasting. And so I just want to thank all the listeners so far. It really means a lot to me for your support. Season 2 will be coming up. And then lastly, if you are curious about whether you're an emotional eater, a compulsive eater, a stress eater, or even if you have outright binge eating disorder, there's a binge eating disorder quiz on my website at eatingenlightenment.com. That's eatingenlightenment.com. Without further ado, let's talk with Jennifer about hypnosis. Hey everyone, welcome to the Eating Enlightenment podcast. I'm Jared, your host here. I'm here with Jennifer Matteo Holtz from enlightenedhypnotherapy.com, and we're going to be talking about health, weight, hypnotherapy, a lot of good stuff. And I know, and so a big part of neuro-linguistic programming, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to learn more about neuro-linguistic programming, but it's that the way you speak to yourself, the way that the energy inside your body, it's going to basically manifest outward. And so a big thing is self-talk and changing the relationship you have with yourself. Is that correct?
Exactly. Every word holds an image in our mind, and your mind creates feelings with images, which becomes a belief in your body. So if that strong belief that you are, always going to be overweight and that you can never lose these pounds is prevalent in your thought process, and you're saying it out loud, perhaps, my mom is heavy or I'm just big, big boned, or whatever it is that you tell yourself. If you can repeat those type of things out loud, then you're thinking them in your subconscious mind, and you program yourself with that program. And neurolinguistic programming helps you to recognize this so that you, in hypnosis, can easily picture yourself in a different way. And with my help, you begin to use different terminology and experience yourself in a completely different way. And seeing yourself as being healthy and fit ahead of time in your mind, and with you, what you want to do and want to seek outside, can make a huge difference in your success.
Absolutely. So a person who wants to retrain their self-talk might start by getting images of what they want, and then coming up with phrases alongside of it.
Yeah, and it's a little more in depth than that, but that's an easy way of looking at it.
What's deeper? How do you go deeper with clients?
The deeper aspect is in a rational thinking. Your critical mind, right, has all of the things in it that would be like knowledge, understanding, those sort of things, actions and logic, right? But your subconscious mind is your soul, and it holds all of your programs, either positive or negative. And let's say the negative is that all of your family is unfit and bigger, right? Then you automatically will perceive, no matter how much you want with your critical mind to fix that, and make it better, in your subconscious mind, it's a negative and you can't do it. So even if you're in a heightened state of awareness um, every day, and you're pressing hard to try to lose that, first 10 to 15 pounds, whatever it is, it's not going to happen as easily because you're not congruent with your both of your minds, your
Absolutely.
higher mind and then your critical mind. So being able to go into trance allows you to subdue the critical and only speak to your subconscious mind and reprogram your thoughts automatically, being image wise, seeing yourself already fit, able to make wonderful food choices, and easily want to activate your body to burn calories, even when you're not working out, by working out daily in small doses.
Nice. Yeah. And for those who are listening, if you're a little bit skeptical of hypnosis, I want to address this right now because I too was skeptical of hypnosis, and I'm in the Bay Area. And then during a yoga class, I met a Stanford doctor one time. She's at a Stanford hospital, and her whole career was focusing on changing the attitudes around hypnosis, saying that there's actually a lot of scientific proof. I mean, if you look at
Mhm,
smoking cessation, if you look at some types of surgeries, um, hypnosis
mhm.
is real and it's legit. And um, Jennifer, do you ever come across like biases against hypnosis?
Yeah, on a regular basis. I actually did a YouTube program that's the myths of hypnosis. Because unfortunately, many people come from a fear base when they're thinking about the mind being out of control or being controlled by a different person while they go into this state. And it's literally not that way at all. Your subconscious mind runs your parasympathetic system. So all of your breathing, your heartbeat, the fact that you can walk without having to think about it is controlled by your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is 88% of what you do. It holds everything that you've ever experienced in life, every feeling, every emotion, and that's powerful. So if you can utilize something like that, then why wouldn't you? And it's unfortunate that lots of people look at stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy as kind of being the same thing when it's not at all. One is for entertainment, and the other one is for actually productive purposes in your life. There is no control that's happening. You either want to go into hypnosis or you don't. And just like you want to walk or you don't. So when I hear people that are skeptical tell me, well, I can't be hypnotized, my mind is too powerful, I'm like, no, you just literally don't want to try it. You don't want to do it. You know what I mean? And so you won't. You won't
I
be
mean,
hypnotized.
I've never been hypnotized, but I do feel a little afraid of it. Even like
Yeah,
being a believer in it, even like doing my own like kind of affirmation, visualization work and being familiar with these concepts, I'm still like,
sure.
it's vulnerable. It's,
Yeah,
you know, it's like, okay, I'm gonna, yeah, it's
yeah.
vulnerable.
The nice part about it is there are certain things that I look for when I'm dealing with a good hypnotherapy client. One, the more intelligent you are, the better you're going to be at allowing yourself to go into a calm, higher mind state. Okay. If you are really creative and can visualize and imagine easily, you're going to be able to go into that state really quickly. The third is someone who can simply follow instructions. So if you're one of those people that just can't hear the instructions or don't want to follow along with them, then it's going to be a difficult thing for you to do. But most people um, understand after meeting me that I am not going to do anything to them unethical. There isn't any command that I would give them that would have me tell them their secrets or, their bank account number or anything like that. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah. So how do you work with people? Like, I mean, how do you get someone to relax? I imagine some people
Sure.
they know all this stuff rationally that you're fine, but then they still come
Yeah.
in maybe a little tense. And maybe maybe you have some general tips on relaxation for life in general.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. Um, when I have somebody who's really apprehensive, I tell them what's called the theory of the mind. Okay. So this is one of the things that I talk about before we even get into the chair, or before we start a Skype session, that sort of thing. It's automatic. It's the theory of how your mind works. And to me, I'm an incredibly scientific and spiritual person. So I want proof of something before I want to know about how it works and why it's going to help me. Right. So I show them exactly in a diagram how we help connect you with your primitive mind first. Your primitive mind holds your fight or flight syndrome, and we're all born with that. And then above that is your subconscious mind, which is that 88% that I talked about. And above that is the critical mind, which literally is the smallest
The
amount of your
thinking
mind.
mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah, the
so
thinking
interesting
mind.
because
And
in
that
our
thinking mind,
society, yeah, in our society, it's like if you think of an iceberg and like most of it is underwater,
yeah,
like 88% we'll say is underwater. Like the 12% on
yeah,
top is the thinking part, but that's like the part we use like 99% of the time. Like we organize, we use our that type of mind to think ahead and we worry
logic.
about stuff and
Yeah.
we stress about stuff but there's this whole other world underneath, and this is why I love talking with you, because when I talking about and like enlighten, eating enlightenment, like that's
Yeah.
I feel that eating can be a spiritual journey. It can be a journey where you're
Yeah.
reconnecting to the bottom 88% and integrating that and
Yeah.
into your eating and so forth. So please do continue on
I
telling us
agree.
about these different layers and how someone can connect to that bottom part.
Yeah. Once you get so many message units into that critical mind, like you were talking about, the higher half of the iceberg, it can't hold anymore. And so what happens is it creates like a little doorway, a breakthrough where you relax. You either hit the fight or flight in that primitive mind. And even if that happens, like for example, if you think about little kids that don't want to take a nap when they're really tired and they get all cranky and they start to fidget and get fussy, that's the flight mechanism. Right after they go through that, they're going to crash out every time. And then with the flight, people will just literally go, I don't want to hear you anymore, and they relax. Okay. So when I'm dealing with somebody who's really anxious, I do what's called a progressive hypnosis relaxation. So attention relaxation. I have them do specific things, and this will help lots of people at home. When you're feeling really stressed out and you need to get rid of tension, you simply lay in a calm, relaxing state. You begin at the base of your feet with your toes and you spread them as far as you can, and you hold for about 5 seconds, breathing in, breathing out, and you'll feel that tension in those areas. And then you let go and you just continue your breathing and you work progressively up your body in that
Mm.
way. When you get to your legs, you squeeze and hold your glutes as tight as you can. Just try it. I know it's weird, but try it. Right. And you're holding and tensing, and you can feel that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let go and just breathe. Okay. So you can breathe in, breathe out, and experience that release. It's a physical tension release, and it's called progressive tension relaxation.
Mm.
And this is what I do with people when they're really tensed up and they're scared to do hypnosis. We walk through the entire body, through the hands, through the neck. You scrunch your shoulders up tight in your neck, hold for 5 seconds, really feel that there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let go. And just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out, and relax. Okay. And you do that all the way up until you get even into the tiny muscles of your eyes. And you hold it and scrunch it and let it go, and all the way into the mouth, holding the mouth nice and tight, so that by the time we go all the way through all of the different systems in your body, you yourself have taken control to just let it go, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you like when someone takes the control and they take the time to like squeeze and then relax. There's something where you
Yeah.
squeeze and then that tension, like the opposite, it's like contrasting when you see that when there's
Yeah.
contrast, you see the opposite better. So it's like you tense up and then you see the relaxation more clearly. And then
Exactly. It
Mhm.
helps immensely with people that are in an anxious state. When I see people for hypnotherapy for anxiety, that's the first thing that I do with them as soon as they go in, because otherwise they're
Yeah.
already a heightened state and they can't
Oh, that's
relax.
so good. Also, yes, exactly. Because they're already tense. If you just tell them to relax, it's like,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not going to just
No,
relax. But if you kind
they
of
go the
tense,
opposite.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you tense, it's like you're going with that energy. It's like a,
Yeah.
like a
The
jujitsu thing.
correct flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
The
you're
correct
taking the
flow.
tension and working with the tension. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And also teaching people like these are reactions. Like you're either going to want to fight this or you're going to want to like run away. But there's this, you can also do this other
Yeah.
thing where
And
you tense and relax.
I'm really big about giving people empowerment when they come in, or even if they listen to one of my MP3s online. I'm going to empower them to understand that each one of the guided suggestions that I'm giving them, they can easily take on themselves if they'd like. And if they don't want to, it's okay.
Hmm.
There's nothing that you have to do in hypnotherapy. I've never run across someone who is so intellectual that they can't get the process down. The problem is that some people are so heightened in their fear at first that they
Hmm.
experience it and they'll go into a trance state that's comfortable for themselves. And if that means that you're in a state where you just experience kind of a soft guided meditation, that's great, right? But if you really want to completely relax, then you'll go into that inner space that you and only you can go to in a very
Hmm.
easy way.
Mm. Yeah, I think that finding that inner space just resonates so much because so much of this eating stuff is about being able to find that inner space, being able to
Yeah.
find that and to soothe that wound in the heart or that or to find that inner peace and
Mhm.
relate to
I agree.
life from that angle. Yeah. When someone
I
is in this
agree.
state, yeah, what's the next step? So someone's really relaxed and mhm,
Sure. So the next step would be that I walk them through a deepener. So after I've done an induction and either a progressive tension relaxation or a progressive relaxation for just going even more relaxed in the body, I walk them through a deepener. So a deepener would be guided imagery. And so they start to feel kinesthetically, perhaps they're underneath a waterfall of relaxation, and all of the warm feelings of water are simply melting over the top of their mind and
mm,
down all the way down into the tips of their toes. Okay.
mm,
So it just helps to get them even deeper into a state where they want to go into peace. Once they're past that, then that's when I start addressing things like weight management or emotional eating triggers, or the amplification for motivation for being more physically fit. We don't address that right away because, again, the critical mind is heightened in the beginning.
mm,
And the
mm.
more we walk through the processes, we start to actually feel the subconscious mind come forward. And then that subconscious mind is programmed with exactly what it is you want it to begin to believe.
Yeah,
Makes a
absolutely.
big difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so then when someone is faced with one of these triggers in real life, like let's say traffic, right? They got a long commute
Uh-huh.
home and they're
Sure.
they're stressed out and I know a lot of people overeat at night and so forth.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah.
how would so that let's say they've got this training, how would like that work in that situation if they're really
Sure.
stressed out?
I'm glad you asked that. I'm really glad you asked
Sweet.
that. Yeah, I am, because that's where
Mhm,
that's where anchors come in. So in hypnosis, we deal with anytime that you're going to take a behavior away from someone, you have to add in a new positive behavior because otherwise they'll search. Remember, whatever is missing or lost, you search to replace. Okay. So, in that way, for example, let's say they're one of those people that drives home, and every time they drive home and they're feeling anxious, depressed, or nervous about their day, and angry, then they stop and drive through McDonald's, right? Well, instead of doing that, their new anchor is going to be centering in on perhaps peppermint oil, putting it on their tongue to really give them a rejuvenation. As soon as you breathe that in, it's nice and cool. It takes away the sensation of smell and taste, and
mm,
it gives you only that strong odor of peppermint, which is a very invigorating thing. And on top of it, a nice cold glass of refreshing water that will boost your body and decontaminate all of your fat cells, giving you the ability to refresh your mind and body. Okay. So that peppermint we would anchor into deep breathing. I have specific triggers that I use with people in hypnosis. I would literally make sure that they're touching either 2 or 3 fingers together, whatever are more comfortable for them. And they immediately go into that sensation of, okay, here's my physical anchor. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, calm, right?
Mm.
Whatever word it is that they want to associate with, perhaps it's fitness. I'm fit and healthy. I'm fit and healthy. And seeing that in their mind, they're going to go right back into that mental image, because that's what the mind talks with. It talks with images. It's not words, right? We want to say that it's words, but it's not. It's mental images that are going to get you to the next level. Okay. That's why in my private practice, when I take someone on as a weight management client, about the second or third week in, we do a gigantic board of desires. Okay. So this would be very much like manifestation board, where you take cutouts of your face and you put them on whatever body type it is that you want to see yourself looking like, so that you already have that mental image of your success even before you actually start attaining that as your result. Okay. So these type of anchors are what make my clients super successful. And
Yeah.
I'm sure what you can utilize in practice as well.
Totally. It resonates so much because so oftentimes with binge eating, emotional eating, all these different things, there's a common phenomenon of like this out of body experience, almost like
Mm,
you're not in control, like your body
right.
is just like a robot or doing it automatically, like you're kind of detached and like watching your
Yeah.
body. And
Yeah.
it's so important. It's so critical to be able to, ground in
Hmm.
those moments, and having some simple techniques to kind of hold on, like it's like you're holding on, whether it's a
Yeah.
smell or the fingers or like tapping, or I
Yeah.
usually, like, people I feel need a combination of them. Is it kind of
They
like
do.
sounded like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I think sometimes the advice, like, just deep breathe, it's great, like deep breathing is great, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I think that combination, you really do need, like, the smell, the
Yeah.
deep breathing, the tapping, the
Hmm.
the ice pack or whatever, the cool
Yeah.
sensation. That can
The calming. Yeah.
yeah, the combination of factors can help not totally alleviate all
I
the
totally
stress right
agree.
before a binge, but it can help you stay grounded and be like, okay, like,
Yeah.
let me think
You
through
become
this.
more aware, way
Yeah.
more aware of what your outcome will be. Because most people, when they're doing something that has become a habit, whether
Hmm.
it's, every night at 9 o'clock, I'm hungry and I'm going to eat a half a bag of, Pringles or whatever.
Yeah.
If it becomes habit to just grab for that crunchy munchie, then you literally won't achieve your end result. And they don't look at it like that. They're just going for the now moment. So instead, in hypnotherapy, you take away, like, for example, Pringles, that would be a trigger. And instead, you allow them to experience the delight of crunching into a healthy carrot, a carrot chip. Do you see what I'm saying? And they get that same crunchy feeling with something that's even more beneficial for them. And they can ground into the good, happy feeling that they get after they've done something wonderful for their body. And those positive emotions will cancel out the negative emotions that they have from, binge eating emotions, basically.
Yeah, no, and what if someone does, like, what if they screw up, right? It's bound to happen in the beginning for sure. Like,
Yeah.
you mentioned that your stuff is long term. It takes a while to
Yeah.
reprogram everything. How do you handle? How do you teach someone to handle guilt, shame? Like, not that inner
It's a
critic
good
might
idea.
want to like beat them up, right? Like, it might want to say, "Oh, you suck at this. Like, you
Exactly.
suck at hypnotherapy. You suck. Like, you're terrible." Like, how do you handle the inner critic?
Yep. I have a weight loss packet that all of my in-person clients get for weight management, and it literally has 12 questions that are incredibly emotional questions. Things like, how often do you feel that you eat your emotions? How many times have you tried to lose weight and felt that you failed? What were the reasons behind your failure? It makes you become more rational about the reason why you've been struggling with this. And they get down to the nitty gritty. When I first took the 12 questions and did them, it made me cry, and it made me realize that the emotional weight that I had gained was simply to protect myself, because I felt that if I looked too attractive, that I would receive the wrong type of attention. And so I was using it as kind of a barrier for myself so that, people wouldn't notice me as much. And now that I recognize that that's not healthy, I don't care. I don't care. My health is way more important to me than if someone stares at me or not, or somebody wants to comment on a body part or whatever. It doesn't make any difference to me, and so it helps you to grow a kind of a thicker skin and to understand the reasons why maybe you're eating that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, understanding these reasons are so important. If someone is like criticizing themselves, how do you teach them? Is it the same kind of strategy where you'd relax and kind of like that critical mind? It's almost like you have to relax the body to get out of that critical mind. Is that
You
how
do.
do you think of, yeah.
That's actually covered in the hypnotic suggestions. So instead of focusing on what you don't want in hypnosis, you focus on what you do want, so that you amplify the positive.
Mm,
And once you start amplifying the positive, like things like, for example, um, every day that I exercise, I feel better and better about myself. I release enormous amounts of stress. I'm able to sleep better. I'm able to enjoy life with my kids. I'm able to breathe easily on my own anytime I want. Should I decide to go for a walk or a run, I have no stress or strain, and I feel incredibly beneficial with myself after I'm done. So, like, for example, I have a hypnosis that is all positive, affirmative communication, subliminal, so that when you turn it on, even if you didn't want to work out, it will make you want to work out, because those are rolling around taking those negatives of I can't do and turning them into I can and I want to and I have and I will. Okay. So that's the important part of understanding how powerful reprogramming your subconscious mind can make it easy to transform versus going against the way you've been kind of brought up in your own mental platform.
no, totally. Yeah, I think so many times people have the subconscious belief and the story that they're a failure, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's really heartbreaking to feel that energy where someone is doesn't believe in themselves. um how do you give people like small wins, or
Yeah.
like how to, because that feeling of failure can be so sticky, can be so
Yeah.
like deep. um
Hmm. Yeah.
how do you work with that? I mean, I can understand like someone relaxing and having images, and then I can also see someone maybe like they still feel like a failure, right? I feel like
Mhm.
getting some sort of momentum, or different tools, momentum and hypnotherapy and other
Sure.
tools to deal with that feeling of failure would be helpful.
Sure. So one of the first things that I do is I always document what they look like. They have an automatic picture of the beginning. Okay. The first 4 weeks we don't step on the scale. Period. The scale, when you are trying to lose weight, will lie to you. It will lie to you, because the more muscle you gain, the heavier you look on the scale. So it can actually do a mental subconscious flip on you where you're like, oh my God, this isn't working, right? So if you don't look at that for the first 4 weeks, after a period of time, you'll notice that you start to shrink in your clothing. and people will start to notice. And you can notice immediate results with the difference in the way that you feel about yourself. So those are the key factors that I bring out with people is, recognize those things, those small gains of having, perhaps the pants button easier, or recognizing that because we are talking about being mindful in hypnosis with eating, that you will tend to eat less at a meal. You'll become much more full, and you'll want to make better food choices overall without having someone tell you,
Yeah, yeah.
like a Jenny Craig meal or whatever. It's not like that. You literally will start craving
Uh-huh.
healthy, substantial, food. So those are the
Uh-huh.
positives that will stick out, and these are the things that I use to motivate people.
Yeah, with binge eating too, it's very similar where someone they can make a lot of progress, and then like these roots are so deep that they'll still feel like they're not doing well. And like that's
Hmm.
why in the beginning I always say like we take a little quiz like and survey how many times are you binge eating a week? Probably the most important question I ask people.
Yeah,
And then later on, like after they've made some progress, they're like, okay, I'm not binge eating every day. Like I was every day. Now I'm every other day. Now and they can see that they're like, oh
yeah,
yeah, okay, I'm not as eating as much, but these inner feelings can be there still. So I think that's really useful to have some sort of measurement. Oh,
mhm,
yeah,
yeah.
so
I love it because
so
I
important.
do this. Sorry,
No,
I
yeah,
do
you
the
go.
same thing like I do the same thing like you do. I have them measure it. So like they will document how many steps they're getting. I recommend 10,000 steps a day. And so it's not just them sitting around listening to hypnosis nightly before they go to bed. There's an action plan with everything. And if you can see those results by documenting them on your calendar that I give you, then you're going to really feel the results, and you can feel prideful in yourself with the automatic suggestions, knowing that you're going to amplify that feeling the more that you partake in it. It makes a huge difference so that you don't go into that automatic place that you used to go to when you felt as though you couldn't. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It just gets rid of that entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you'll see the results because you're doing the results yourself. That's the difference, maybe, with our programs that we utilize for people. We empower them to actually see that they can take these steps. And once they take these small steps, right? Like, for example, when I have someone who is being motivated to, like, let's say, walk on the treadmill, right? I use a very old technique that was made by the Japanese culture, and it is literally 1 minute a day to start a new motivated process in your life. So I will tell them, all I want you to do is stand on your treadmill for 1 minute a day. Don't do
Yes.
anything for an
Yeah.
entire week, right? Just 1 minute. And after a period of time, it creates that where they want to. They'll get on it and be like, well, this is stupid, me just standing here.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And, and so it makes them motivated for their own change without me having to tell them to do anything. I'll say, I simply don't want you to walk at all. Just get on there, stand on it. That's all you have to do. Time yourself for 1 minute and get off for an entire week. This is all you have to do. And after a period of time, they're like, oh, okay, well, I stood on it, but then I felt like kind of dumb standing there. So I just decided to do it. And it's them making their own
Oh,
empowered choices. Do you
I
see what I'm
love
saying?
that. Yes. Yes. That's like up at there's this guy at Stanford too. He does tiny habits, and that's
Yeah.
his whole thing. That's so wise of you to incorporate that approach. But
Thank you.
it's totally similar where it's like if
Mhm.
you want to do like if you want to good at push-ups, right? If you want to do
Yeah.
exercise, a kind of similar thing. He says do like just like get in the position, and then that counts as a win. Like
Yeah. It
that,
does.
because you want to give yourself that mental success,
Mhm.
and like this
Exactly.
is not just like I mean it sounds silly, right? Like oh just go stand on a treadmill for 1 minute and that'll it's like what that
Right.
isn't
Yeah.
but this is like research backed. This approach of little small
Mhm.
wins
Mhm.
is so important,
It is.
so
And that's
important.
what we work with. That's what we work with. So, like, for example, one of the anchors that a person would utilize with that small win like you were talking about, is after they're done on the treadmill, whatever power word that they come up with during our consultation, like for example, my power word is triumphant, right? So I will literally get done with my workout, I breathe in, I breathe out, and I anchor in and I say, I am triumphant, right? Because you have to affirm your actions. If you don't affirm your actions, you're never going to feel good, right? So those are those
Totally.
small little things with being
And this
cognitive.
mentality like has changed my life too. I mean, like after this podcast, I'm going to go on like a 15-minute run or
I love
15
it.
minute jog.
Yeah.
Like I think in the past I would have like not thought of that as a success, and I would have
Mhm.
not kept up running or jogging for a long period of time because um I'd be like, "Oh, you didn't run fast enough, you didn't run hard enough." That inner critic would
Right.
sneak in
Yeah.
there. But now I'm like, "Okay, I'm yeah, I feel good after like I did I'm proud that I had a fun time. It was pretty easy. It was pretty fun to go on like a 15-minute jog, listen to some music. Um and that type of approach is like it's it's how I mean I've changed my eating patterns. It's how you change your eating patterns is like
Mhm.
making the
It's huge.
process like whatever you want to call this, small wins or
Mhm. Small
pleasing
gains, yeah.
small gains,
Small gains, yeah.
like and feeling internally like pride
Yeah.
and or whatever that you did it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, one of the things that my mentor taught me was if you want something, don't deny yourself that, but just do like small wins for yourself. So, for example, I had a client that was like literally addicted to McDonald's cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
And every time she would get hungry, that's kind of what she would crave. So, I told her, it's fine. Go ahead and eat them. But the difference is from now on, you're going to eat them without the bun. So it takes away that feeling of satiation that you get normally. It makes it healthier because you're taking out all of the carbohydrates primarily, and now you're mostly getting fats and proteins. And she's still getting that the craving kind of you know out of the
Yeah.
way. She lost about 10 pounds within the first month because she decided she didn't like them without the bun.
Hmm.
Okay. And so she ate them like that the first couple of weeks and then decided, you know what, I don't want this anymore. It doesn't make me feel good. I don't like the way that it makes me feel. And she just switched. She completely switched. So now when she gets a hamburger, she puts lettuce on both sides and she gets that kind of crunchy feeling. She can still taste all the deliciousness that she wants, but she cuts down on one small thing that has made a difference.
Hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Totally.
So
It's
small
funny when
steps.
yeah, and the idea of like permission,
Yeah.
uh, when I don't know, when someone's on that treadmill and they're like, I am letting myself just stand here. This idea of permission helps so much. Like when in eating, when getting over restricted foods, sometimes people have this inner dialogue like, I cannot have a cookie.
Yeah.
And then it's that whole
Which is
loss
not
thing that
healthy.
we just keep coming around to. Like, if you can't have something, that's a loss,
Yeah.
and you're
It makes
gonna,
you want it even more.
yeah, why?
Yeah.
It makes you want it more, and
Yeah.
like it sounds weird, like having this internal permission, but like this switching that dialogue, like at a not at
Yeah.
the this critical thinking level, but in the
Right.
heart level.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like I can have a cookie, like.
Hmm.
And then, as I think some of your clients figure out, like, oh, the cookie, like when I give myself full permission deep down that I can have it, this cookie just doesn't satisfy me.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's the emotions that they're dealing with. So I'm glad that you talked about previously about how you're going to go out and enjoy a 15-minute jog, that sort of thing, because it does help you to alleviate emotions or amplify your personal power. You know what I mean? And that's actually an anchor that we use for releasing emotions versus eating. Is to just go for a walk. Go for like a 5-minute walk. You know what I mean? 5 minutes is better than nothing. That's
Yeah.
those small little traits. And like, let's say you did decide to go ahead and eat one or two cookies, and now you got your craving out of the way. You didn't tell yourself no, but you feel a little bit on the downside because you just ate some emotions, right? Taking that 5 minutes to go anchor into a release now negates the negative and turns it kind of into a positive. And the next time that you go to reach for something that you felt was actually give you that emotional need, right? You'll think differently about it the next time. You'll
Mm,
literally go, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to take a fraction of that. I'm going to get the flavor. I'm going to get the taste, but I'm going to go for a walk because last time it made me feel better.
I
Do you
love
see what
it.
I'm getting at?
Yeah. And Jennifer, as we kind of start to wrap up, I did think
Sure.
you had a really interesting history around hypnotherapy, and I just wanted to know if you could tell the audience like what lineage you come from.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I come from three generations of psychic mediums, and I had been doing private practice with reading people's energy and things of that nature for about 20 years. And I noticed that people would come to me again and again with the same programs, and they were having a hard time breaking through. And I just want to help people. If I'm not doing that, I'm not doing my job. So I decided to start utilizing different things to help myself. And one of the ones that I utilized was hypnotherapy. And I loved it so much. It made so many differences in my life. It helped me with PTSD and anxiety, and it helped me with quitting smoking and losing 50 pounds and things like that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get a degree in this. So I went to school at Hypnosis Motivational Institute in Tarzana, California. I got all of my accreditations and clinical accolades and things like that. And I went into private practice for myself. And I do both intuitive guidance and clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapy for people. And it has made a huge difference. I've been able to get wonderful breakthroughs with people like in one session versus having them kind of, fumble around with how to deal with things on their own. So it's made a huge difference, and I love what I do. Love helping
I
people.
love it. And what it like the most research I've heard and the most like powerfully transformative stuff. I'm sure there's a lot in hypnosis, but at least from the research side, it seems like the smoking cessation is kind of catching on. Um,
Yeah,
just real quick, what do you think about that? Like, what have you heard about the science, or
sure.
is your own personal stories about it?
Sure. My favorite smoking sensation story that I have out of my own private practice was a 40-year-old guy that came to me that had been smoking for over 25 years. And he was having problems with finding a girlfriend because of the fact that he smoked, because he felt like all he was meeting was like, people from the bars that were smoking, and the women weren't exactly his quality measure. And he felt like the ones that he wanted were not smokers. And so he decided, after seeing a friend pass away from cancer from smoking, that propelled him to come forward to get help to quit, and so that hopefully he could find himself kind of a companion in life, right? And so we started with the program, and he finished all of them, and he quit smoking the first day that he came in for his actual appointment, which was awesome.
That's
And he did
awesome.
so well. He saved so much money. He went on vacation and he bought himself a new pair of golf clubs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And now he's got a girlfriend and they golf together all the time.
Oh
So,
my
you
gosh.
know, so it's wonderful. 25 years he quit and just hasn't even thought anything else about it. So it makes me happy to help people with, a habit that is really devastating to people overall.
Yeah, and just like it highlights the power of the subconscious mind, and and I believe the real necessity of long-term work where you're changing these patterns. Are tough, these patterns,
Yeah,
whether they're really tough, and as we said earlier, this takes a while. But if you're missing that long-term, I think the subconscious is the key to a long-term approach. um
absolutely.
like if you're just following a
Absolutely.
plan, it's like only in the thinking mind. It doesn't get into the soul and the deeper
Mhm.
layers. So I want to thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that awareness to the subconscious mind today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Where can people reach you?
Sure. They can reach me on my website, enlightenedhypnotherapy.com. And I offer free 15-minute phone consultations. So all you have to do is go to my booking, and the very first one on top is book your free 15-minute phone consultation. And I will definitely assess kind of what your needs are and answer any questions for you and help you get set up with the next round or process.
Sweet. And that's enlightenedhypnotherapy.com.
Yes,
Sweet.
sir.
Got you. And then last question I always end up asking people is, what's your biggest eating enlightenment, your biggest like shift in perspective
Hmm.
around food?
Sure. So for me personally, my biggest shift around food was learning to bless my food. So that's that higher mind enlightenment that you were talking about, where one, to realize it was grown for you and to be grateful for what it is, learning that anything that's grown in sunlight holds a higher vibration. Eating and consuming foods that come from sunlight, for example, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, those sort of things are going to be more nourishing to your mind and your body and your soul overall. So giving that food a nice thank you, and my higher self now blesses this food for my abundance and nourishment. That's all you need. Whether it's the a prayer that personally, or just kind of giving it a blessing and saying thank you, you'll actually consume it and nourish yourself and get more full in a shorter amount of time with less overall, bulk consumption, and be more mindful about how wonderful it tastes and how good it is for your body, right? That's kind of what I took away from my experience.
I love it. Yeah, it's I know many studies have shown that like when you're distracted and you like you eat more when you're distracted. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really is like when you change your relationship to food, and it changes your everything else. It's like a domino effect. So I totally hear you there. Um,
Yeah.
Thanks so much for
Absolutely.
coming on. Yeah,
Thank you for
loved it.
having me.
Cool.
It was a pleasure.
Namaste, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming on this journey with me and Jennifer today. Really appreciate your presence. Felt it. If you have any questions, let me know. Leave a comment, leave a review. Love to hear from you. Again, thank you so much for your support. Be sure to give Jennifer a mention on her social media channels. And lastly, if you are curious about whether you are an emotional eater, a compulsive eater, or if you have the 10 out of 13 criteria needed for binge eating disorder, you can get a free quiz that will go through the 13 criteria for binge eating disorder and give you an estimate about if you qualify for binge eating disorder, or if you're more of a stress eater, emotional eater, or compulsive eater. That's at eatingenlightenment.com. Eatingenlightenment.com. Namaste.